Have you ever noticed how much of your life is spent in silence? Not the kind that calms you, but the kind that suffocates you. The silence when you know something is wrong, but you say nothing. The silence when you want to scream, but swallow your words instead. The silence when you betray yourself because the truth feels too dangerous to speak aloud. This silence is not peace, it is not wisdom, it is the slow erosion of your soul. And what's worse is that most people will live their entire lives in this quiet prison, never realizing the bars were built from their own refusal to speak, to act, to confront. Today we're going to uncover the hidden cost of silence, the way it destroys your potential, rewires your mind, and traps you in a life that feels empty and small. And we'll explore why thinkers like Nietzsche, Plato, and Bonhoeffer understood this long before us, and why their warnings still echo across centuries, waiting for you to finally listen. Most people think of war as something fought with weapons, armies, and banners, but the greatest war you'll ever fight takes place inside your own mind. You have thoughts you bury, emotions you deny, truths you push down because you fear what will happen if they rise, and every time you do this, you feed silence, you let it win. Nietzsche once wrote, "Silence is worse. All truths that are kept silent become poisonous." Think about that. The very things you're afraid to say, the resentment you hold, the dream you dismiss, the anger you bury, don't disappear. They fester, they rot. And then, without realizing it, they control you. You think you're free because you're not saying them. But in truth, they own you. If you've ever whispered to yourself, "It's fine. I can live with this. It's not worth making a scene," you've experienced one of the most common human traps. We tell ourselves lies to survive, lies like, "I'll speak up when the time is right." They wouldn't understand anyway. It's better not to rock the boat. But here's the truth, the right time never comes. Understanding doesn't magically appear, and the boat is sinking whether you shake it or not. Plato warned us of this in his allegory of the cave. The prisoners who stayed silent inside the cave lived in darkness, convinced that the shadows on the wall were all of reality. It was only the one who dared to question, who dared to face the pain of leaving the cave, that discovered the light of truth. Silence convinces you that shadows are enough. You might think staying silent protects you. You avoid conflict, you avoid rejection, you avoid judgment. But here's what you don't avoid: the slow decay of your self-respect, the deepening sense of emptiness when you betray your own truth, the quiet resentment that builds until it turns toxic. Bonhoeffer, the German theologian who opposed the Nazi regime, once wrote, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil." He wasn't only speaking of politics, he was speaking of the soul. When you silence yourself in the face of what you know is wrong, you become complicit in your own destruction. And one day you'll look back at your life and realize you weren't quiet because you were wise. You were quiet because you were afraid. Here's the irony: the smarter you are, the more likely you are to fall into this trap. Intelligent people overanalyze. They calculate every consequence. They imagine every reaction. And in doing so, they paralyze themselves. Nietzsche called this the danger of the last man, the one who avoids risk, avoids truth, avoids greatness, all for the comfort of security. The last man nods, smiles, stays quiet, and dies, never having truly lived. Your silence is not protecting you. It is robbing you of the very life you're trying to preserve. Let me tell you a story. A boy once stood trial in ancient Athens. He was accused of disrespecting the gods, of corrupting the youth with dangerous ideas. His name was Socrates. The judges gave him a choice: stay silent, stop questioning, and live. Or speak his truth, continue to challenge, and die. Socrates chose to drink the poison. He chose death over silence. Because he understood something most of us refuse to. Life without truth is not life. It is survival, yes, but survival is not the same as living. And so I ask you, are you surviving or are you living? Think of the last time you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak. Maybe it was with a friend who hurt you. Maybe it was with a parent who never understood you. Maybe it was with yourself when you looked in the mirror and said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. How did that silence feel in your body? The tightness in your chest? The heaviness in your stomach? That is not peace. That is the weight of a truth that demanded to be spoken but wasn't. Multiply that by every unspoken word across your entire life, and you begin to understand why you feel so heavy, so empty, so numb. Silence forces you to wear a mask. You smile when you're breaking inside. You nod when you disagree. You laugh when you want to cry. Machiavelli once said that politics is the art of wearing masks. But here's the difference. He knew he was wearing one. Most of us don't. We confuse our mask for our face. And when you live too long behind a mask, you forget who you really are. Of course, breaking the silence has a cost. Speaking your truth will make people uncomfortable. It will lose you friends. It may even make you enemies. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Silence costs you more. Silence costs you your soul. When you speak, you may lose others. When you stay silent, you lose yourself. Nietzsche warned, "Become who you are." You cannot become who you are if you refuse to voice who you are. Look around today. Social media is louder than ever, but most of it is noise. People post opinions they don't believe. They argue about things they don't care about. They hide their real struggles, their real truths, under filters and slogans. We are surrounded by words, yet starved of truth. And so silence takes on a new form. Not just the absence of words, but the abundance of meaningless ones. The silence now is not that nothing is said, but that nothing true is said. And in that noise, your real voice gets drowned. So here's the choice you face. You can continue down the path of silence, comfortable, safe, unchallenged. You will avoid conflict, yes, but you will also avoid yourself. Or you can risk everything for the sake of truth. You can risk being disliked. You can risk being misunderstood. You can risk losing, but in that risk, you will finally begin to live. Because here is the paradox. Silence feels safe, but it slowly kills you. Speaking feels dangerous, but it will set you free. Conclusion: one day your life will end. And in that moment, you will not remember the things you stayed silent about. You will not find comfort in the times you avoided speaking your truth. What you will remember, what will haunt you, are the words you never said, the truths you never voiced, the life you never lived. So I leave you with this. Silence always has a cost. The only question is, are you willing to pay it? And if not, then maybe today is the day you finally speak.